Ollie is the newest Mythic Brawler coming to the game, and he is the first member of a brand new trio. He is a skater that rides a hoverboard all over Star Park and apparently doesn't care much about causing problems. He's a big fan of old school hip hop and plays it very loudly through the boombox he always has with him. A young whippersnapper. Strange part about him is that the music literally hypnotizes anyone that hears it, and they have no choice but to dance.
I stay lit. Watch me pop this Ollie fam. Riding high, attack from the sky.
Ollie's main attack is Bring the Ruckus. He uses his hoverboard to fire 2 sound waves that pass through any amount of targets, very similar to Poco's main attack. The 2 waves are technically separate projectiles, and there's actually a tiny space in the middle of them where you can avoid damage at max range. But the attacks only deal damage once, and the projectiles don't deal separate damage if Ollie hits them with both. It's just the same as getting hit by one. Very similar to Poco's or like Frank's attack. Ollie's super is Hypnotize. He pumps up the volume on his boombox and dashes forward while his music creates a small area around him that hypnotizes enemies inside the area. While hypnotized, enemies will not be able to control their own brawler, and the brawler will just follow Ollie wherever he goes. Also, while the music is playing, Ollie himself is actually muted and cannot attack. Although he can reload during this time, so he's still able to deal some decent burst damage to hypnotized brawlers as soon as he is not muted. Now the music plays for about 2.5 seconds, and then it creates a blast that deals damage to all targets inside the area. Even after the blast happens, the enemy brawlers will still be hypnotized for another second or 2, so keep that in mind. Ollie's first gadget is Regulate. When this gadget is activated, Ollie pops his hoverboard into the air, does a kickflip, and then hypnotizes enemies that are nearby him when he lands. Unlike his super, this gadget can hypnotize enemies for only 1 second. But this gadget does allow Ollie to hop over walls or water, and he can't be hit by attacks while using it. Ollie's second gadget is All Eyes on Me. This gadget is pretty similar to the first, since it also hypnotizes enemies for only 1 second. But instead of doing a kickflip, it just makes Ollie's next attack hypnotize every enemy that it hits. This means that Ollie has 3 different ways to hypnotize enemies. Ollie's first star power is Kick Push. This star power increases Ollie's movement speed by 20% as long as he is near a wall. And when I say near, I mean he has to be within 1 tile of a wall in order for him to get this boost. I'm not sure if this is a bug, but this star power does not work if Ollie is next to the edge of the map. It has to be a wall within the borders of the map. He does keep the speed boost when moving away from the wall, but it's only for a split second. Ollie's second star power is Renegade. Whenever Ollie uses his super, this star power will give him a shield with extra health as soon as he dashes, very similar to Gus's super. The shield has 4,000 health, but it decays so fast that even if he isn't hit by anything, the shield's going to be totally gone in about 4 seconds. If Ollie is somehow able to recharge his super while the shield is still there, another shield won't stack on top of the current one, and the current shield will just be replenished back to 4,000 HP. Now obviously Ollie's a support brawler, but we're going to put him through the Olympic test and see how well he compares to every single brawler in the game, starting with his worst test and working our way up to his best. First up, we have the boss test. Ollie takes a while to charge his super, and even with the help of his super, it's not much since it does less damage than his main attack does, which is also relatively weak. Ollie defeats the boss in 1 minute and 52.3 seconds, and that puts him in 87th place. Next is the area test. Neither of Ollie's gadgets are able to break extra skulls, and his main attack breaks 16 skulls. Ollie's super can't break any skulls either. I really feel like this has got to be some kind of bug since his super does deal damage, but I guess for now Ollie breaks 16 skulls and only gets 87th place. I think he's going to be better at controlling area than this would suggest. Next is the assassin test. Ollie uses his super very first since the damage is dealt at the very end of the attack, and then quickly unloads his first 3 ammo. His reload speed isn't quite fast enough to allow him to fire a 4th shot in time, so Ollie deals 6,700 damage in 3 seconds and gets 85th place. Next, we have the 3 attack kill test. Each of Ollie's attacks deal 1,700 damage no matter where the attack hits. So 3 attacks equals 5,100 damage. That is enough to take out only 8 of the brawlers in the game and is barely enough to put him in 85th place. Next, we have the supercharge test. Ollie has to land 5 hits with his main attack in order for him to fully charge 1 super. He also doesn't have the best reload speed, so it takes him 5.9 seconds to charge his super, which ties him with Gray and Ash for 83rd place. Next is the reload test. Ollie conveniently ties with Buster in this test, and it's actually really helpful because of how similar they are. So if you have a good feel for how fast Buster can unload and reload his shots, you're gonna have a really good feel for how Ollie will attack as well. He reloads 10 shots in 23.5 seconds and ties with Buster for 81st place. That is not a very fast reloading super. Next is the 1 second DPS test. Ollie doesn't unload ammo fast enough to get all 3 of his shots off within the same second. Instead, he uses his super first and then fires 2 shots right after the blast. He deals 5,000 damage in total and gets 81st place. Next is the attack range test. Ollie's main attack reaches 6 1/3 tiles and ties with Sandy and Frank for 87th place, which is also kind of nice because those two brawlers have similar looking attacks to Ollie, so you have a really good feel for how his attacks are going to work. For the box test, we already know that Ollie doesn't deal a lot of damage over time, but he can hit multiple targets with the same ammo, so the box test isn't horrible for him. Since he can normally hit every box per group in the original box test, I calculated how many shots it would take for him to complete the test and then just timed how long it would take him to do that. Once again, a reminder, this update, there were some issues with the developer build, so I couldn't actually do the box test, but this is a good estimation. He would complete the box test in 55.4 seconds, so he gets 67th place. For the super range test, Ollie dashes forward 5 1/3 tiles with a super, but then the music blast also has a radius that extends it much further. Unfortunately, there's no reticle for the blast, so I kind of had to just estimate the radius based on the attack animation, and I measured it to be 3 tiles. That is 8 1/3 tile, which puts Ollie in 59th place. Next is the splash test. Ollie can't hit every box in the splash test at once with his main attack, but he can hit over half of them, so I calculated how long it would take for him to break open 2 rows of boxes twice, assuming that he picks up a power cube from the first 2 rows. He also gets a bit of a head start since he can hit every box with his super. He completes the splash test in approximately 17.1 seconds and gets 54th place, although there's a decent chance that he could do a little bit faster than that. For the swarm test, Ollie takes out over half of the bots with 1 super, but because of the shape of the other half, he can't take out the rest with a second super. So he uses one of his basic attacks to take out the top row and then finishes the rest with a super. He defeats the swarm in 6.2 seconds and ties with Edgar for 54th place. Next is the auto aim test. Even though Ollie's attack is a fan shape, it's actually pretty narrow compared to other fan shape attacks in the game and doesn't have the best range either. He's barely able to hit Nita from 4 tiles away and deals 1,700 damage and gets 53rd place. Next is the super damage test. The music blast from Ollie's super deals 100 damage less with his main attack, which is kind of strange, but that's 1,600 damage, so he ties with Juju, Tara, Daryl, and Stu for 52nd place with their damage from their supers. We have 2 more tests to show, and only in those 2 tests is Ollie better than half of the brawlers in the game. Granted, we don't have a great test to show, making enemy brawlers dance. The race test is the first test where Ollie gets a little help from a star power, and I mean, a little help. Ollie has a fast movement speed like some brawlers like Bull or El Primo, not very fast, but also not normal. And he also has quite a few other abilities to help him in this test. He starts out by using his gadget and then waits to use his super until he's past that first wall so that he can get a little value from his star power. Then he gets another quick second of speed boost from the wall after using his super, and then finishes the race with a second gadget. He finishes in 9.4 seconds. That ties him with Sam, Colette, and Bull for 27th place. But Ollie's best test is the survival test. In this test, he gets little help from his second star power, but the shield from his super only absorbs 2 shots, so it only adds a couple seconds to his score. Ollie has 11,200 total health, which is the 4th most in the game. So he technically has the most in the game after using his super with his second star power. I feel like this also is a good time to mention that Ollie has a tank trait, so he slightly charges his super every time he's dealt damage. He survives in 32.1 seconds and gets 26th place. Once again, support brawlers don't typically do too well in a lot of these tests. A lot of these are based off of damage and your ability to 1v1 enemy brawlers and stuff. So let's go through each of the game modes, and I'm going to talk about how strong I actually think he's going to be, because he is a tanky boy and his utility is actually pretty good. For gem grab, we're going S tier. Ollie's super will be pretty easy to use on an enemy gem carrier, and even if he dies while using the super, the gem carrier probably is not going to survive long enough as long as Ollie's teammates are paying attention, right? At least a little bit. He also has gadgets that will turn the game around, since 1 second of being taunted is usually all you need in a really competitive match to take that brawler out. Not only is Ollie going to be great for taking out brawlers, but he's going to be able to use those same abilities to protect his gem carrier from assassins and other close range brawlers, right? S tier for sure. I mean, think of him as the perfect counter to Kenji, Edgar, or anybody else is going to jump on a gem carrier or on you or whatever. You just activate that gadget and boom, they can't do anything. For Brawl Ball, we're going S tier as well. Everything about Ollie makes me think that Brawl Ball is just going to be his best game mode, and specifically one of the best goal scorers in the game. He has tons of health on top of a star power that gives him even more, which will make walking the ball just very common. His super and his second gadget's going to give him completely free pathway to the goal, since he can hold the ball even while he's muted. He doesn't have the best DPS in order to defend goals, but he can just taunt brawlers away from the goal, which is just as effective, right? He's going to be really good for Brawl Ball. For Heist, we're going with the F tier. Ollie just doesn't have the DPS that he needs to be a good Heist brawler. The only thing that I would even consider is using him to defend brawlers that dive on his safe, but I don't think that he has the damage to even be a good brawler for that. I guess if his other two teammates have like really high DPS, then he could be usable on some maps, maybe to counter like, I don't know, maybe a Chuck or something like that. I don't think that he's ever going to be, there's not going to be a good reason to play him in Heist most of the time. For Bounty, we're going to go with the B tier. It's kind of a tough mode to judge for Ollie because he probably won't be able to do much in the early game since his range is so short. But thanks to the tank trait, he will at least be able to charge his super, and that might be all he needs to win the match if he can successfully get the enemies killed without dying himself. It's also kind of nice that his specialty is taunting brawlers so that his teammates can kill rather than him killing them. So it's not quite as important if he dies because he won't be gaining the stars, his teammates will. So we'll go for B tier and Bounty, and for Hot Zone, we're going to go with the A tier. Ollie may not have the range that he needs to keep enemies out of the zone, but his super will make it just so easy for teammates to regain control of the zone and ultimately the map, right? That's so important for Hot Zone. The only reason I'm not putting him in the S tier for Hot Zone is because he'll probably be feeding the enemies their supers like crazy if he's trying to score points in the zone. That being said, the sheer amount of health that he has is going to make it difficult to get him out of the zone. So it's tough to say whether or not he'll be broken or balanced. So I think the A tier is a safe place to put him for Hot Zone. For Knockout, though, we're going to go with the A tier. If Ollie can survive long enough for the smoke to push enemies in towards the center so that his attack range and super range can actually reach them, there's a very good chance that he's going to win that round. I just don't really see playing him in Knockout any other way. But that's the only strategy that he needs in order for him to be a really good knockout brawler, and that does happen competitively. Then again, if he's able to somehow catch somebody by surprise in the early game with one of his gadgets, that's going to also result in a kill a lot of the time. I think the A tier makes a lot of sense for knockout. For Solo Showdown, I'm gonna go with B, or with the F tier, maybe D tier. The entire mechanic of taunting enemies revolves around help from your teammates. And if Ollie doesn't have any teammates, then his super honestly is going to hurt him a lot more of the time than it's going to help him. Maybe if he dives on an enemy that can't deal with how much health he has, he could still do well. But that's pretty risky in Solo Showdown a lot of the times, right? It's just going to be so easy for Ollie to be kind of like Frank, where he's just going to be picked on by longer range brawlers. And yeah, I just don't think that's going to be too good. For Duo Showdown, we'll go with the A tier. We're going to be a little bit generous for him. Ollie's obviously going to be way better in Duo Showdown because he's just going to have a teammate that can help deal some damage. Still, I don't think I can give him the S tier because while he's going to make it much easier for the teammate to get kills, keep in mind that he only has one teammate to rely on, unlike the two teammates he's going to have in 3v3 modes. And using his super is still going to be very risky in Duo Showdown. And while his teammate will be able to get kills from that distance, surviving after taunting enemies is going to be pretty difficult to do. So we're just going to go with the A tier, still fairly generous. Honestly, I know that he didn't do that great in these Olympic tests, but he seems like a truly broken support brawler on the right maps with the right teammates. You know, if you can trust your teammates. There will be modes where he's going to be pretty useless, and if you don't have good teammates, like randoms, then that's going to suck as well. But I don't know. I think competitively, he has a lot to offer. Make sure you stick around for all of Ollie's voice lines and pins. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you use code Kairos in the Brawl Stars shop.
Watch me pop this Ollie fam! Jump up and get down! Nobody gonna hold me down. Nobody gonna take my crown. Who turned off the light? Aha! Don't leave me in the dark. I need a Ollie day. Bruh, I'm off my game today. Time to preach to the choir of angels. I got caught slipping. Oh, got dropped harder than my mixtape. Bruh! Game recognized game. Oh, time to hustle. Check yourself before I wreck yourself. Oh, you better be ready, cause I'm coming for ya. It's a hard knock life. Hey, I'm preaching, dog. Oh, that hurt more than a diss track. Bruh. I'm about to flex on y'all. Game on. Let's get it. Haters hate. Skaters skate. Born to hustle. Built to last. Yo, pass the mic. I'm ready to preach. Not a cloud in the sky. Time to make some brawlers cry. More brawlers, more problems. I bring the flavor. I'm not short, just vertically efficient. I might be small, but I'm a big deal. My beats are straight from the streets. O to the L to the L-I-E, representing the Skate Beats family. So fresh, so clean, got moves you never seen. So fresh and so clean. Yeah, ain't no cap. I'm a dude. Ha-ha. Today was a good day. Ollie in the house. Respect the grind. Ooh, too fresh. Y'all can't keep up. Ain't nobody dope past me. So fresh, so fly, so fresh, so fly. In the place to be. I'm icy. Y'all just salty. Y'all basic. I'm boss level. I stay lit. You dim, bruh. I'm the realist. I'm so fresh. Can't touch this. See ya. Wouldn't wanna be ya. Oh, you just got Ollie, bro. Whoa, I flip, you flop. Oh, I got game. You just lame. Busting moves and breaking rules. Ain't nothing but a brawl thing, baby. Riding high, attack from the sky. Yeah, catch me if you can, fools. Skate or die. Fresh, fly, and touching the sky. King of the concrete.